Ben Aris, an Eastern European specialist and the editor-in-chief at BNE IntelliNews, is also a long-time Russia reporter, and he joins us now from Berlin. Thank you so much for joining us on the News Hour. Firstly, this really is a case of he said, because the French President Emmanuel Macron says he's received assurances from Vladimir Putin that Russia isn't looking to further invade Ukraine. The Kremlin has since denied he made any such assurance. Who are we to believe here?
It's very difficult to say. Clearly, Macron is making an effort now to try and broker an EU-led diplomatic effort to wind the tensions down. And it should be said that Macron has been cultivating a relationship with Putin for many years. He used to operate in tandem with Merkel, who also had extremely good relations, such as you can have with Russia. Now she's left and Macron is on his own. And what he's done is to launch a new diplomatic strand to the whole negotiations. The talks began in the middle of January with a meeting between the deputy foreign ministers of the US and Russia. And there was proposed the key Russian demand, which is a guarantee for no expansion of NATO, especially not Ukraine. And that meeting in January was followed by the OSCE and the NATO Council. And the EU has only been indirectly involved in the negotiations so far, in so much as it's member of both the NATO Council and the OSCE. And what Macron has done is to launch now an EU-led initiative to try and de-escalate things, because all said and done, if this war happens, then it's going to be fought in Europe, and the consequences for the whole of Europe will be significant. I mean, there's going to be a food price shock if Ukrainian agriculture is destroyed, and one presumes millions of refugees. And no one wants to go there. So Macron is trying to leverage his good relationships with Putin and start a round of EU-led talks, and that's focused not so much on the ban on Ukraine joining NATO, but pushing through these Minsk II agreements, which would have the practical result of ending the war in Donbass and actually de facto guaranteeing NATO can never join, Ukraine can never join NATO. So there's a possibility of a sort of backdoor solution here.
What do you make of this, all this diplomatic activity that we've seen in recent days ahead of Macron's whirlwind diplomatic tour of Russia, Ukraine and Germany? We saw the secretaries of state of both the US and Russia meeting several times to no avail. We also saw the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visit Washington to meet with Joe Biden. Is there any point to these talks that are happening? Do you believe that a peaceful resolution is in sight?
I think it's more possible now. I mean, it's been remarkable. This has been sort of EU diplomacy week, in so much as everybody has been on planes. On the same day, Scholz, the German Chancellor, was in Washington trying to thrash out an agreement with the States, exactly what sort of sanctions would be imposed should it come to fighting. And that was the day Macron arrived in Kiev. And at the same time, Baerbock, the German foreign minister, was in Kiev, as were the leaders from Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Austria. And everybody is, flying around like crazy, trying to get this EU strand of diplomacy working. And it's going to go on for a while. The Germans and the French will now have to coordinate what their discussions had, and then they have to go back to the States and thrash out a deal with the States about what the united front against Russia is going to be, and then that has to be taken to Moscow. So I don't see any fighting starting until this diplomatic effort plays out. The Kremlin is interested in talking. It said repeatedly it wants a negotiated solution. It won't invade Ukraine, provided its security concerns are taken into account. So this whole process is going to take weeks. At the end of that, sometime in March, then Putin might decide to ratchet up, to escalate, in order to force the West to reconsider if he doesn't get what he wants.
Okay, Ben Aris, always good to get your analysis. Thanks again for joining us on the News Hour.